Okay, welcome to the City Council Sunshine Meeting. It is May 4th, and it is just after 6 o'clock. Michelle, roll call.
Councilwoman Aller.
Present.
Councilman Azar.
Present.
Councilwoman Crossan.
Present.
Councilman DeBon.
Here.
Councilman Elliott.
Here.
Councilman Garrison.
Present.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Nasser. Councilman Nation.
Here.
8 are present, 1 is absent.
Michelle, first item.
Resolution 8, 2017, designating an area commonly identified as 4150 East Stilton Avenue, Terre Haute, Indiana, as an economic revitalization area for the purpose of a 10-year real property tax abatement. This is for confirmation.
All right, do we have a petitioner?
Jeff Lind Law Firm, here for Pyrolex. Also with me is Tom Red, in the event you might have any questions. You heard quite a bit about this several months ago in a bond issue. We talked about it all last month. As a reminder, it's on the north side Terre Haute in the Fort Harrison Industrial Park. $2.3 million in building improvements, $22,500,000 in new manufacturing equipment, 55 jobs, and a payroll over $2 million, and the employee benefits are really pretty impressive.
Would anyone from the audience like to speak on Resolution 8, 2017? Council? Next item.
Resolution 9, 2017, designating an area commonly identified as 4150 East Stilton Avenue, Terre Haute, Indiana, as an economic revitalization area for the purpose of a 10-year personal property tax abatement. This is also for confirmation.
Petitioner?
Jeff Lind Law Firm, here on behalf of Pyrolex. Again, Tom Red's here. It's the same project as the personal property tax abatement side of the request.
Would anyone from the audience like to speak on Resolution 9, 2017? Council? Next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
General Ordinance 4, 2017, amending City Code, Chapter 8, changing four-way stop intersection to a two-way stop intersection at Barber Avenue and 13th Street.
Do we have petitioner?
Members of the council, Mr. President, Chuck Ennis, city engineer. This clears up a little traffic situation we've got on the north end of town. There's been a four-way stop and a flashing red light at the corner of 13th and Barber. It was originally installed there when Sacred Heart School was open. Sacred Heart hasn't been around for a number of years, but the signals remain. We'd just like to amend the code and remove the signals. Happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Would anybody from the audience like to speak on General Ordinance 4, 2017? Council? Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Next item.
Special Ordinance 19, 2017, rezoning of property located at 921, 925, 927, 929, 931, 933, 937, 939, 1001, 1009, 1011, and 1017 North 6th Street, and 622, 626, 628, 632, 636, 644, and 650 Lafayette Avenue. Area Planning gave a favorable recommendation.
Petitioner?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jeff Llewellyn. I'm an attorney with the Wilkinson Goler Law Firm here in town. I'm here this evening on behalf of Vermilion Development. Also with me is Mr. Barry Pirates. And in addition, co-petitioners in this matter are Indiana State University and H&H Realty, who own the real estate that we're talking about this evening. The real estate is located along Lafayette Avenue, 6th Street on the, 2nd Street on the north side, 6th Street on the west side, and Locust on the south side. We have 20 lots in the middle of that block that are being purchased contingent upon the rezoning by the developer, Vermilion Development. The purpose for the rezoning would be from an R2 to an R3 to allow for development of an assisted living facility for seniors with physical disabilities. The project would involve the construction of a 3-story facility with 119 units mixed with studio and 1-bedroom units. have with me this evening a rendition, if you will, site elevation of the front side of the facility, where you see, obviously, it's a very nice facility, will fit nicely into the community and be a benefit to the neighborhood when developed. The site plan that we have as well, and you have in your packet, again, outlines where the property sits within the real estate that I described, and showing from the front elevation, the property would face Lafayette Avenue. That would be the main entrance. There'll be two entrances off of Lafayette Avenue, and then a third entrance exit on 6th Street as well. The cost of the project is an estimated $22 million overall project cost. As far as the site around the proposed area, to the north is R2. There's several either unimproved lots or a few residents, and a couple blocks north of that is the Union Hospital campus. On the east side, there's a small park area already designated across the street, and again, residential lots and usage. To the south, again, R2, for the most part, residential. Kind of catty corner to the southwest is a fraternity house. Again, a couple blocks south of the site is the Indiana State University campus and apartment housing. Directly across the street to the west is, again, some more residential lots and housing, as well as the McMillan Adult Daycare Facility and residence. So when you put all of that together, we believe that the proposed project fits well within the characteristics of the neighborhood as it currently exists. It does not appear to be in any way harmful to the surrounding property or to the general welfare of the public. And it is consistent with the master plan for that area. In fact, the plan called for the development of an assisted living facility in this vicinity. So we believe it's a very good fit. In addition to those matters directly related to the project, I think you consider as well economic factors that are involved here. And so there are 20 lots currently that would be used for this site. They're all currently unimproved, undeveloped. Some of those are tax exempt. So obviously, you put a $22 million project on that site, we're going to generate some significant real estate tax for the community. In addition, once the facility is up and running, it would generate anticipated 35 new full-time employees with an annual payroll of about $2 million. So bringing some good job opportunities to the community as well. With all of that said, I guess I'll throw as one last item. I was going to open it up for questions, but there had previously been some discussion or comment about the developer asking for certain incentives. There are no tax abatements being requested here, and there was discussion of a pilot tax program. The state legislature acted a week ago to change the circumstances such that we no longer need to ask for such pilot program, and that's not an item for further discussion as well, if that's of interest to you. So with that, I would answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jeff. Does anyone in the audience have anything they would like to say about Special Ordinance 19, 2017? Council?
Mr. President.
Councilman Nation.
Jeff, thanks for bringing this to us. I'm looking at the site plan, and I see that it looks like we may need to vacate part of the north-south alley. And from your plan, it looks like what's left of that alley that goes up and connects with 2nd Avenue would remain, but it would need to turn. And does it turn west and go out onto 6th Street?
Actually, yes, and I did mention that at the Plan Commission meeting last night. It's not an issue right now, but we will be filing, subject to approval of the rezoning, we will have a sister proposal ordinance to vacate, yes, the alleyway. And we did want to discuss with council about your thoughts on that. As the plan, the site plan that you have in front of you shows, as you know, we're vacating kind of the middle of the alley and leaving some on the north end and some on the south end. My personal opinion would be, for what it's worth, the alley could be vacated in whole from Second Avenue all the way down to Locust, I don't really think that it serves any purpose. But if it needs to be left on those ends, certainly we can do that. And the plan would be that it would, to answer your question directly, exit to the west to North 6th Street. And there would be a fire lane running along the length of our building to the east to allow fire protection on the back side of the structure.
The drawing seems to indicate that the fire lane ends before Lafayette Avenue.
Correct.
Will it connect to Lafayette or not?
It is not intended to connect to Lafayette. In fact, there's an alleyway that currently exists right there and runs pretty much in this same area from the north-south alley to the east, and it does not go all the way through and connect up to Lafayette Avenue currently.
You lost me there.
Well,
I don't see it on
sorry.
the drawing, so.
Okay. Well, if I go to the larger plan, we show the fire lane running on the back side of the building.
Yep.
Here, and we stop, as you know, short of Lafayette. There is currently an alley, what appears to be an alleyway or a paved way already there, and it also stops short of Lafayette Avenue. But obviously, for our project, we would improve that and make that I'll say a full-size fire lane. Right now, it's a very narrow paved, I'd call it a pathway, I wouldn't even call it an alley.
I know that in previous discussions about vacating alleys, the council showed concern with dead-end alleys. And that's what this looks like to me. But if there's a way out west onto 6th Street, that's the theoretical trash truck route.
Right.
But so continuing to the east, but not all the way to Lafayette Avenue, would be to be able to get fire equipment in there.
Strictly a fire protection lane, correct. And we do, it may be hard to differentiate on the drawing, but there actually is a plan that we would have the drive extend or the fire lane extend all the way to 6th Street. So there would be that exit out to the west as well. And then you'll note below, we actually show the same thing on the south end. We show a roadway or alleyway on what is the south border of our property, so it's on our land, but then exiting out again to 6th Street to the west. I think that kind of creates some issues, really, when you put something like that, which is not a planned exit for our facility, but almost a quasi-public alleyway, but it's on our property. And I think that brings up a lot of issues that could be avoided if we simply eliminated that south end of that alley altogether and vacated it. Haven't talked with Chuck about it or engineering, but it would appear to me the way this comes out, and I've been on the site and driven it, if you're out there, the way Lafayette runs, not directly north-south, but in a diagonal position with that intersection with Locust, and then you have, within a few feet, an alleyway exit. You almost have a five-way intersection without any traffic control or signals, and it's really not a good situation. And that what is left of that alley currently would service one resident that is still there as a rental property, but I also note that that property is serviced for its trash removal on 6th Street. So the trash truck doesn't pick up on the backside of that alley anyway at this point. So there's really no reason for service in that alley.
Except for them to have access to the back of their property. Your client doesn't own all of these properties to the south of the line that you're showing, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so you have to get the other property owners involved, even if they just have empty lots.
Well, I believe that, yes, the other petitioners involved here, though, Indiana State University and H&H Realty do own bordering properties, so they would be a proper petitioner.
All right. I also note at the south end of the site, there's a detention pond. Well, I don't know. Will it be a pond? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I really can't tell you the engineering specifics, but it is an intent for a drainage pond area. Now, the type of drainage that goes in there, whether there would actually be ponding or not, I couldn't say. I would venture to guess anything that's out there today would be ponding, but I suspect there'll be a filtration system that would actually bleed it down into the ground so that it's not an actual pond.
Okay, thanks, I yield.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Let the record show Council President Nasser has arrived. Next order of business.
Turn it over.
Next order of business, Michelle, please.
Special ordinance 20, 2017, rezoning of property located at 2403 Prairiton Road, area planning tabled this ordinance until at least June.
Just ask, is there a petitioner to speak on this? Okay, is there anybody from the public like to speak on this? I assume so. Before we get started on this, I know this is a passionate topic that's going on. I'm just asking that, we refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, and so forth, and that we limit our comments to 3 minutes. And please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Mark Parsons. I'm a Terre Haute resident. I live at 598 South Dobbs Glen Street on the east side of town. I'm part of a group of concerned parents and other citizens who are strongly opposed to the location of the proposed jail on the riverfront on the Prairiton Road facility across from Voorhees Park. What I specifically wanted to talk about today was the use level of Voorhees Park, specifically our new aquatic center. Here are some numbers. There are an average 566 visitors per day at the aquatic center Monday through Friday during the academic year. The facility has swimmers and their families from 5:45 a.m. to 8:45 p.m. Monday through Friday, also some on weekends. This equates to more than 2,800 swimmers, coaches, and family members at the pool during the academic year. These numbers also include our county's 1,200 kindergartners who are involved with the successful Swim by 7 program. These children will be less than 1,000 feet away from a jail where sex offenders and other offenders will be going in and out of and required to register. Some will be serving time there. I'd also like to comment that in recent weeks and months, that swim programs from across the state and in fact out of state come to this pool, and they have shared their excitement about coming to this new facility for meets. It's not very often that teams get to come and compete in a brand new facility with an Olympic-sized pool. I'll also add that these guests, while they're in town, are staying at our hotels and eating at our restaurants, and they certainly shouldn't be greeted by a county jail, which is across from our park. So I'd just like to strongly urge this council, when it does come up, whether it's this month or next, to vote against this rezoning. And there are certainly better uses for the 60-plus valuable acres of recreational space across the street for other things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this? Hello.
Hello.
And address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Lisa Moore. I'm at 7321 Belfont Lane in Terre Haute. And I just want to start by saying thank you for listening to residents about this topic. I believe that a new jail is needed for our community, and I support the county on this project. I've also shared my concerns with the commissioners, the school board, and the county council. Location, location, location is being discussed and keeps being discussed. And I hope we can agree that putting the new jail across the street from city parks and the school facility is not an appropriate location for our county's children. Our duty as parents, teachers, community leaders, business leaders, and city board members is to protect our children and to give them a safe place to learn and to grow every day. I'm proud of the $10 million aquatic center that is across the street from the proposed site, and I'm thrilled that my children and myself get to swim in this beautiful state-of-the-art aquatic center and use the Voorhees Park along Prairiton Road. In January, after the commissioners announced the location of the International paper as the proposed location, I created a change.org petition. It now has over 600 signatures. I looked at 660 as of today. And there are 15 pages of oppositional comments about the location. That means that Vigo County citizens have spoken up and have taken time to outline their concerns of the location and have given some suggestions on other locations within these comments. The site sends each response or comment one by one to the commissioners' email accounts, and there has been a similar theme. In private and in public, the commissioners have indicated that there are very few people who oppose this location. This baffles me and many others that are here tonight, as there are 660 signatures and 15 pages of comments, and I guess that means that that is a few people. And I urge you again to not support the rezoning when it comes up for vote of the IP property for the jail. And thanks for allowing us to speak. I did bring copies of what I just read, as well as the 15 pages of comments.
Thank you. You can come up. Do you need copies? Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this? Go ahead, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Got to bring this down.
All right.
Mike Gordon, 1933 South 31st Street, lifelong resident of this community. I just want to, number one, I want to thank you for allowing the public to speak and be heard and to have an open and transparent process regarding this ordinance if it ever comes to you. There has not been a lot of transparency from other governmental units here in the community, and that's a great concern to me. Number one, I'm opposed to the site. Just want to make that clear. You've heard from Riverscape. You've heard from concerned parents as to the justifications for that. What I'm asking you is to continue the atmosphere of transparency and openness and kind of ask a couple of questions about some rumors that are floating around regarding rezoning and the necessity for it and things like that. One question, is rezoning of this property necessary by law? If anybody, that is a question that should be answered publicly at some point, even if it's not tonight. There have been some rumors floated around that there is a legal end run around rezoning of this property and that your consent and area planning's consent is not going to be necessary because of that. I wanted to bring that out fully into the public because that should not be a rumor floating around. It shouldn't be a concern to the public. Either you've got a zoning ordinance that applies or it doesn't. And if Mr. Felling or someone could address that tonight, this would be a nice opportunity to spread some sunshine on that.
Well,
Councilman Morris.
I haven't been told what you're hearing is a rumor. I've heard that there has to be a decision on the zoning.
Okay.
So,
I feel comforted by your understanding of that
well, yeah, I haven't,
and your statement.
otherwise I haven't heard that rumor, so.
Yeah. Well, this rumor generated from a different governmental entity. But it should be your feeling, as far as I'm concerned, it should be your feeling that you've got zoning codes. They shouldn't be trampled on. They shouldn't be superseded by legal maneuvers or things like that. They should be yours to control and decide on. So that's my opinion on that. You are going to hear, and this is contrary to some of the things that have been floating around too. There's a lot of urgency being pushed forward on this as a result of the lawsuit and some other things in a time frame that the county commissioners stipulated to. Interestingly, rush, stop seems to be where we are right now. County commissioners have not made clear and have not answered any questions as to what their intent to proceed with this site is or to pursue another site. So I'm kind of assuming that they're going ahead with the site. And if they're not, then that's wonderful, but that should be a transparent thing to the community as well. We have a right to know. It will be the biggest public building ever in Vigo County history. So I believe city residents would have tax liability as well as county residents, and we all deserve answers about that. You can't answer those tax questions, I understand. But what you can say is that your zoning code matters, that it is valid, and that it cannot be superseded by some types of legal maneuvers. The other thing that's being floated, rumors stink, is that there have been some offers to entice the city to support rezoning for that property in terms of making funding available through the local option income tax. Again, if that is the case, that's fine. Do it if you support it, but do it publicly. Do it with some accountability. Don't do it behind closed doors. Don't do it in the same kind of old business as usual, which has given our community such a bad rap for a long time. Do it in sunshine. So if there is enticement for approval for rezoning with the belief that local option income taxes are going to be raised and that's going to help city funding, let's do it publicly, let's lay it out on the table and have some accountability and transparency in the process. So once again, thank you for allowing people to speak. You are the first public board to offer this opportunity, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hello, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Lisa Phillips. I live at 1537 South 4th Street in Terre Haute, and I'm here to publicly oppose the location of the proposed jail. As a property owner, I live less than a mile away from where it will go in, if it does go there. I live in Farrington's Grove, which is a jewel, I think, of Terre Haute. It's multiracial, multi-ethnic, cross-class. I love living there. I've lived there for 13 years. So I'm concerned about the potential decrease in my property value and on the neighborhood as a whole. I work at ISU. It's a walkable distance to ISU, so we get a lot of people who take positions at the university who move into Farrington's Grove for that reason. And I think if we built the jail there, I could foresee people looking around and looking at Farrington's Grove and doing a Zillow search or something like that and seeing that there was a jail 0.8 miles away from the Farrington's Grove neighborhood. So I would like to oppose the location of the proposed jail. I know that it's a necessity. I'm not against it at all for that reason. I'm just opposed to the location of it. And thank you for allowing us to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Jamie Luna Schatz, and I live at 1001 South 23rd Street. When I first dug into this stuff about the jail, I wasn't really opposed to a new jail. I just was opposed to location. As I've learned more, I'm not so convinced that we necessarily need such a large jail. With all the numbers coming out that most of the people, like 80% of the people sitting in the jails are just waiting adjudication, they're not actually serving a sentence, it made me realize that maybe something on the other end could be done. You know, for example, hiring more people within the courts to get those people who are waiting on their sentencing to go through faster. I have an email that I would like to read that I sent to you guys, but I'm appreciative of the opportunity that you're giving the public to speak out loud, and this would kind of put it out there in front of others. I sent this to you, and I also posted it and allowed people to copy and paste it and send it to you as well, so it may sound familiar. In regards to the issue of the IP property, there are many reasons I oppose this proposed location. One, this site was originally purchased for the use of Riverscape's vision, but has been recently taken back for the jail plan. This property should be zoned for its original intention. Recreational amenities such as possible sports complexes that can host state competitions, and a water park that will allow families to stay in town or visit from out of town for some fun. Two, it is not clear that such a large, expensive jail is needed, and definitely not in the dire way that has been presented by the commissioners and the sheriff and the media. After attending other meetings about the jail, it has become clear that most inmates in the current jail are awaiting sentencing, not serving sentences. This could be fixed with hiring more staffing for the courts and changing the requirements for requiring bail for nonviolent offenders. While adding staff or paying employees additional money to work longer will cost money, probably thousands, it will not cost millions and millions. Third, and the final one. The lack of transparency and the condescension of some leaders has been pretty jarring. The issue of placing the jail on the IP property has brought several local community members out to voice their opinions. There's a lot of land in Terre Haute. This is not an area lacking of property. There is no need for taxpayers to be backed into a corner of the IP property or nothing. Also, it does not help that the same company hired by the commissioners to calculate the needs assessment for the jail is the same company listed as the potential architect. And I just want to kind of end on this note. I have walked around Fairbanks Park a lot, and I've gone all the way back to where they were digging up things. I'm not sure exactly what they did back there, but I posted a lot of pictures under the hashtag of beautiful Terre Haute. I love the river. I've loved it whenever. I just have always dreamed of this idea of what things could become over there. And I feel like the jail is a nail in the coffin on those dreams. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes, sir. My name is Matt Leach. I live at 5905 South Ernest Street. And number one, I'm a concerned citizen. But two, I've been lucky enough to come to this community and start a swimming and diving team at the university. Hopefully I didn't break that thing. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. And I'm actually lucky enough to use the aquatic facility for the growth of our program. And being able to come and use this facility has been not only great for the growth of our team, but also being able to come in and see the kids that come into this aquatic center from all over the county, I think is great for such a diverse county that we have, because in the world of swimming, much of our minority are more likely to drown because they don't have access to a great facility like that or access to great coaching from an early age all the way up. So rezoning, for me, looking at the community would not be to myself would be a hindrance on having those young people from early age safety training all the way up to college and master level swimmers coming into that facility right across the street from a jail. Now, I know obviously you guys, this will come across your desk, and hopefully you will listen to all the comments that came out today, and hopefully you will not vote for the rezoning. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa Spence. I live at 220 Barton Avenue here in Terre Haute. Lisa Spence.
Thank you.
And again, I'll add my thanks to others for listening to us this evening on this issue. There have been two formal reports created for the county commissioners by their consultants, one in 2015 and one as recently as December 2016, that showed two sites that are different from the current proposed site as satisfactory for the jail project. One site was adjacent to the current location, one was at the industrial park. Suddenly, in January 2017, just 1 month after the report given in December, the current site was presented in public meetings as the only satisfactory site for the new jail. In meetings since January, when faced with opposition to this current proposed site, the commissioners have stated that they are unaware of any other possible sites other than those already considered, and they have actually gone so far as to invite suggestions for other alternatives. I have also been present in listening sessions when alternative sites were suggested by members of the public, and I believe that those have been communicated to the commissioners. However, at this point, no analysis of those recently suggested sites, alternative sites, has been made public that I am aware of. As a citizen, I would suggest that we all deserve to see and consider a full and current evaluation of alternative sites that have been suggested since January. I know that some may say it's too late, but again, I would point out that it wasn't too late in January to make a change, a significant change to the site proposed in December. So I really would hope that as the City Council and considering this upcoming zoning proposal, you all would consider the fact that other sites have been proposed and ask to see a full and clear evaluation of those other sites as compared to this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Clark Cowden. I live at 2709 Oak Street in Terre Haute, and just wanted to request of you that if you get a proposal for the rezoning for the jail, that you vote no on the location at the former International Paper location. I believe that the Wabash River and the riverfront area may be the most important part of our community for the future of Terre Haute. I believe we need to be very strategic and very intentional about what we put along the riverfront and how we believe that that is going to impact the next 50 years of our community. I don't believe that we can afford to be short-sighted in how we develop this part of our city. If we approve a jail for this location, I can't imagine any hotels or soccer fields or basketball courts or walking or hiking trails that would want to go anywhere near that site. To me, it doesn't matter how attractive the building jail looks from the outside. Everybody's going to know that it's a jail. And anybody who's an investor or a developer is not going to want to invest millions of dollars in building anything new in close proximity to a jail. We only have one riverfront in this city, and I believe we have many possible locations for a jail. If we think we only have one or two possible locations for a jail, then I think that means we have a crisis of imagination. I think it means that we're not really willing to work hard to consider alternatives. And when we're considering the future of our city and the vision for what tomorrow looks like, we really need to consider as many alternatives as possible. I believe that building a jail on the riverfront could severely limit, if not seriously hinder, the future of our city for the next 50 years. So I want to encourage all of you to be smart and to have some vision and to encourage everyone else in the community to find a better location for the jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on Special Ordinance 2017? Council?
Mr. President.
Councilman Nation.
No,
Councilman DeMond.
Okay. I have a question I would like to ask to Eddie regarding Mr. Gordon's first point he brought up. I know initially there was a little bit of discussion about if this did necessarily have to come through us for rezoning. In your opinion, is that still factual, and do you believe it still has to come through us?
I'll try and make this as brief as possible, because we spent several weeks discussing this issue internally. I spent some time discussing with Mr. Wright and some others as well. County jails are not addressed in our comprehensive zoning ordinance. We have currently an M2 zoning and M1 classifications. You can have police stations. The current county jail is in a C8 classification, which allows government buildings, and we have a penitentiary zoning classification as well. After discussing what the proposal would be as far as a petition for rezoning in this matter, the O1 was brought with a variance. The open spaces are the most restrictive in a way because it allows the most possibilities. I think that the petition that's before the council is sound. If passed, would facilitate the jail to be there pursuant to our code. But again, anytime that you have something like this come up, a comprehensive zoning plan is not that comprehensive if it doesn't have all the items defined in certain areas and classifications. So, in summary, there's no straight answer. Obviously, a lot of people can have a lot of different opinions with regard to where a county jail can be built. But in this case, I think this particular action that the county's taken is a possibility to meet those qualifications.
Okay, all right, thank you. I yield.
Councilman Nation.
I'd like to try to directly address some of the questions that were brought up. And, my opinion, for what it's worth, is on the question of rezoning, the fact that it's on our agenda and that it's on the agenda for the Area Planning Commission is the most important piece of information on trying to decide whether or not it's necessary. If it was not necessary, it would not be on our agenda. These steps aren't taken lightly or for no reason. So if there is a legal end run, if this should end up coming to a vote and failing, it'll be interesting to hear how that's all framed. So I think that rezoning is absolutely necessary for it, personally, by my reading of the code. The alternative site and local option income tax rumors, they are just that, they are rumors. Don't be distracted by them. What is on the agenda is what we are talking about, is what we've been asked to consider. And you can't really, well, I shouldn't say that you can't. I can only speak to my own experience. And no one has talked to me about a quid pro quo. If you do this, then we will help you with local option income tax. There have been no conversations like that I have been part of. And I suspect that no other member of this council has been. It's hard with deliberative bodies, with legislative bodies, to get people all pointed in the same direction outside of these public meetings. To Dr. Phillips's concern about walkability, I live in Farrington's Grove too, and I love the walkability of that area. But I think that it's important that any site that is chosen for the jail ultimately be walkable also. I think that it needs to have public sidewalks that serve it. To me, one of the biggest negatives right now about the International Paper site is its lack of connectivity via sidewalks, paths, for people who are both coming and going from the jail to get away from it. And that will be a concern at any site that's chosen for the jail, at least a concern that I'll have. No one brought this one up specifically, but I think that it's important that the jail land inside the city limits of Terre Haute. The idea that if we turn down the IP site, then it has to go in the South Industrial Park is ludicrous. And the next point about that is that, okay, if that's some kind of punishment to the city, we're not just punishing the city, the big we county government, they would be punishing themselves too, because the argument against, or the argument that city people have about putting it out in the county miles away it's the same argument for the county sheriffs and the county sheriff and the deputies. The court system will still be right here on the government campus. There will still be long trips back and forth for all vehicles, whether they're city, county, citizen vehicles, everybody. So I remain firmly in the belief that it needs to be inside the city limits wherever it lands. And finally, I agree with Jamie, the whole system needs to be assessed and the rationale presented. We have a lot of people who are sitting and awaiting adjudication. The court is moving slowly. There are changes in the works that will drastically reduce the number of people starting next year who will have to, who won't need to bond out and can get out of jail sooner. That should have an impact on how many people are sitting around our jail. And I, too, question the need for such a huge jail at such a huge expense to the taxpayers. I agree, if I haven't already made it clear, I'll state it explicitly. I do not think that the IP site is the place for this jail to land. I will not support that. I will be questioning it closely and voting against it if it comes to that. And on that note, I yield.
Councilman DeBon.
I would just like to echo what Councilman Nation said. I've been following this situation for a number of months. I've seen many of you at a number of county meetings, and I make my stance on this no secret. I have no intention on voting for the rezoning either, if it should come to us. I agree that it does need to be within city limits. I think that's best for our law enforcement. But for a number of reasons, I have no intention of voting in support of this rezoning if it should come to us. I yield.
Councilman Crossland.
Thank you. I certainly agree with things that have been said by the other council people here tonight. I have read, I believe, all of the statutory and regulatory zoning information about what would be required for the IP site. And while I think Mr. Felling's certainly correct that people can analyze these things in different ways, there certainly is language in there that I think supports that there has to be a zoning request approved by this council for this particular use. Obviously, people can disagree about that. I have not directly heard from anybody, other than what was said here tonight, that there is going to be an attempt at an end run around that. I would think that at this point, with the amount of public concern about the placement of the jail, that the best thing we can do as public servants and as citizens is to work together to find a site that is more amenable to our community than the IP site. So I think doing that, again, openly is much better than anybody trying to do an end run around anybody else. And I have no knowledge that anybody is trying to do that. I have many of the same concerns that have been expressed here tonight, and I cannot imagine a scenario under which I would be supportive of a rezoning request at this site, and would urge our fellow public servants in the county to seriously consider an alternative location. I yield.
Councilman Morris.
I want to address Mr. Gordon. I had an opportunity to meet with the mayor and the three commissioners last Friday. Now, the initial reason for that meeting was to talk about the possibility of combining streets and roads. Brad Miller is leaving, and I thought it was a wonderful opportunity to at least start that dialogue. And, of course, we got 10 minutes into it, and it came to the prison. I asked about two locations, 7th and Holman. Apparently, it's the property that's 13th. What did I say? 7th and Holman?
I don't want that gas station.
No, 13th and Holman. But apparently, the brownfield has only been 7 acres there that's been cleared. So to clean that rest of that property would cost $7 to $8 million. So they nixed that idea. Then my favorite was this property here, the north end here. And I was presented that to make a 3-tier prison versus the pod of what their idea now is more expensive. The pod is more economical and easier to staff versus the 3 stories. So they kind of nixed that idea. That's as far as we got. I tried to get them back on track with road and streets. We didn't talk about Deloitte, but I've heard the rumors also of .25 and .75, but nothing was mentioned in that meeting. So nothing was accomplished either way, which was very frustrating. Brad Miller leaving in June 1st, I thought this is a perfect opportunity at least to start that dialogue. So I yield.
Councilwoman Olive.
Okay, I was going to say my comments till when they come to us, because there's a lot of things I want them to be put on record for. This is my district. I've been contacted by only one commissioner to have any say. All the other stuff I've learned through the media. And I've voiced my opinions of how I felt about that, with that being my district. I can't represent the people in my district if I don't have the information to give out to the people in the district. In regards to 13th and Holman, that's also in my district. We've spent a lot of money on getting the first part of it cleared up. Like to see the back part get cleared up. We've built 13th Street up. Margaret's getting ready to have an overpass. It's got rail access to it, and I'd like to see something industrial come there for some jobs. With in regards to the property that is on Prairieton, I've spoken to a lot of people that live down in that district, not just with the Aquatic Center, but the actual people that have lived there for 20-some years. And I have heard their concerns, and I just want to make it vocal that I am aware of what's going on down there with the community. And I'm waiting until, if it does come before us, to put some things on record and hopefully get some answers on record. So with that, I yield.
Councilman Elliott.
If a jail's going to be built, it's going to need to be built somewhere. If somebody has other suggestions for locations, I think it's time to get them out there and let them know. One person that did speak today indicated they had some potential locations. I have met with the commissioners, and I have shared 3 or 4 possible locations that I was aware of, and will continue to do that with any more that I am aware of. I also believe the more central the location, the better. I mean, our police department has indicated that to us. I understand that. Also, being in business, if you have deep pockets and you're interested in acquiring a piece of property, you kind of have an agent deal with you for that, and you try to remain quiet. So to expect these potential locations to be laid out ahead of time could be detrimental financially to the buyer if it's perceived they have deep pockets. I mean, that's just common economics. So, thank you.
Next order of business, please.
Special Ordinance 21, 2017, rezoning of property located on Seidenbinder Road, south of Margaret Avenue, parcel 84-09-02, 202-009.000-005. Area Planning gave a favorable with conditions recommendation.
Is there a petitioner to speak on this, please?
Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you for coming this evening. I hope you're okay.
Thank you.
I have a card here for you if you,
I'm
need
sure
it.
my phone will be blowing up tomorrow.
I asked first. My name is Richard Shagley. I'm with the law firm of Wright, Shagley & Lowry, and tonight I'm here on behalf of Indian American Water. They're your petitioner tonight. They are requesting that a property that they own on Seidenbinder rezone from R1 to R3. The purpose of this is for them, they're in the negotiations to sell this property to the developer, where he would like to develop this into apartments on Sidebender. This is the same group that was here last month that we pulled. They'd originally been on Keene Lane and Wabash. They pulled that. I think the newspaper, or I guess one of the news agencies reported as defeated. That was pulled, as you know. They were able to find this property. They went from less than 2 acres, 6 buildings, to 8 acres, 13 buildings, which is obviously a better when it comes to the density. So we believe this is a better project. About the developers, it's 2 brothers. Greg Knoll will ultimately be the owner of this property, and his brother Todd Knoll is the contractor, and he does the building. Between them, they have just about 120 rental properties. Greg has about 80, and Todd has about 38. They both use Newland Miller or Berkshire Hathaway for their management agency, here, the local Berkshire Hathaway. So this project, originally filed, there were 17 buildings projected to be on this. Almost immediately, they redrew it to 13. There was just a concern that was just a little too much in this area. There's also a couple of changes that you'll see on in your packet that I left for you. It starts with a picture of the proposed building. A couple of the things that you'll notice, obviously one, there's 4 less buildings. They also added a dog park up by Sidebender Road. They thought that was a nice thing they could add for their tenants. Also, they added an island about halfway down the road, the drive, for 2 purposes. One, we believe it adds some aesthetic value, but 2, it also adds some safety for the people driving in the neighborhood. And then also they added an island at the entrance, again for some safety reasons. So those are the 4 major changes you see on that site plan. When you look at the site plan, the buildings are 45 feet from the building to the north property line, except for 1 building at the island, and that's 25 feet. And then the property, so the north end property owners, they'll be at least 25 feet, but for the most part 45 feet. And then the property owners to the east may never even see these buildings unless they go through the woods. So we don't believe we're affecting, we know we're not affecting the east end property owners, and we're trying to limit the effect that we have on the north end property owners. Fortunately, I was able to meet with them last night, kind of go over the plans. No one stood up saying it's a great project and I support it, but I think I hope to at least alleviate some of their concerns, These apartments will rent for, the 2 bedrooms will rent for $695, the 1 bedrooms will rent for $550. Each building has 4 2-bedrooms and 1 1-bedroom apartment. Berkshire Hathaway provided me their, both Greg and Todd's rental history. They have an average of about 2.5-year tenancy. And I don't know how many of you are in the landlord business, but 2.5 years is a good track record. They build quality products, and they get good quality tenants. So again, we believe this could be a good project. This property that they're purchasing from Indiana American Water has been sitting there for as long as I can remember. Granted, I'm not that old. I appreciate just a little chuckles, Councilman Carlson, and from the audience, I appreciate that. But, you know, this has been R1 for as long as I can remember, and it's never been developed. Indiana American Water also owned property across the street from Sidebender. And in the last few years, they've sold a piece to the Amateur Radio Association and to Chris Weininger, who runs his lawn care business out of it, Precision Lawn Care. In talking, I have not had the opportunity to speak with the amateur radio people, but I have had the opportunity to speak with Chris Weininger, and he does not object to this rezoning, and he does not object to the proposed building of 13 apartment buildings. Of anybody who would be affected by this, concerning traffic and safety, it would be Chris Weininger. He pulls out of there big trailers. He tells me, in the time he's been running his business out there, he's not had one accident. I heard last night from, I believe it was Mr. Riney, that he spoke to a couple of drivers, and they said that they've had some close calls. I can't dispute that. That's possible. Sidebender Road, I don't know if everybody's familiar with this. Well, first, this property is right on the county line, so to speak. If you crossed I-70, you'd be into the county property. We're at the very edge of the city limits. Sidebender Road is basically a gateway between the east and the south. It's used, there's not a lot of ways to get south because there's a lot of people, I'm one of them, who avoid the railroad tracks at Margaret Avenue. I won't go down there because I don't like being railroaded. And I believe there's a lot of people there, a lot of people like me out there. And last night, Councilman Nasser, who also serves on the Area Plan Commission, asked Engineer Ennis about the traffic, and it was Mr. Ennis's opinion that based on their report, their studies, traffic's going to be less on Sidebender Road once Margaret Avenue is up and running. And really the timing, hopefully the timing's about right where the apartments are built, the overpass is up, and that'll just help with diminishing the amount of traffic on this road because there won't be a need to avoid the railroad tracks at Margaret anymore because you'll be able to drive over them. So we believe any concerns of traffic on Sidebender Road will be alleviated by the overpass that is planned and in progress of being built. So I think we've resolved any type of safety issues. As was reported by Michelle, the original staff report done by Area Plan gave it a favorable. There were 2 letters written to the commission regarding some issues they had with this. After the staff reviewed it, they still stayed with their favorable recommendation with their 4 requirements. And then last night's vote was a unanimous vote in favor of this project. There was 1 abstaining, but all the voting members voted in favor of this project. So what are the benefits of this project? One, I believe clearly is economic development. And it helps send the message that we want growth and we want, things to get better and things to improve and invite people here and make it a friendly place to do business. Currently, Indiana American Water is paying $158 a year in property taxes. That doesn't do much to help our situation. The last couple of articles I've read, it appears that the city still has a considerable deficit. The conservative numbers that we're projecting on property taxes is the owners will now be paying about $50,000 a year. That is a tremendous increase to go towards helping our community. This is approximately about a $3.5 million project. The Todd Knoll, who's going to be the general contractor, uses all local vendors except for 1, which is located in Riley. So we've got local owners from our community who want to invest in our community. And they're projecting around, for the 13 buildings, about $3.5 million. ProBuild, which will provide building materials, is about $430,000. Menards for building materials, $430,000. Jones & Sons for building materials, about $393,000. Central Indiana Asphalt for the asphalt work, $357,000. Affordable Plumbing, $286,000. American Electric, $286,000. A1 Heating and Air, $268,000. Tom Fulk Construction for framing, $268,000. Lucas Construction, the roofer, about $178,000. CNC Concrete, $178,000. F&F Construction for the grading, $143,000. Rick Burke Construction for the drywall, $143,000. Todd Knoll Construction, $100,000. Randy Wyrick Masonry, $107,000. And Sanders Associate for the engineering, $15,000. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money going to our local vendors. And not just to the business owners, but to their employees. It keeps people working in Terre Haute. keeps people working, spending money in Terre Haute. And I've been in enough of these meetings to know that we need that in our community. We need money, we need our vendors being paid, we need vendors spending money locally, we need people investing in our community. And that's what Greg Knoll and his brother Todd Knoll are wanting to do. But to do that, they need this property to be rezoned from R1 to R3. You will probably hear some arguments this evening from some of the neighbors. They have some concerns. Most of their concerns, as addressed by the area plan last night, will be resolved by Mr. Knoll just following code as far as the development of this property. It'll take care of the flooding issues because it does touch a flood zone, but there'll be a lot of dirt moved around to make this project go. And they'll have to follow all local, state, and federal codes as far as the construction of this project, which they have been doing in all their projects that they've done in this community. Like I said, they've got over 140 units that they've built in our community. They're a good developer, and they want to invest in our community. Then the two main issues that they brought up was school buses and maybe some potential safety issues with school buses. That was addressed last evening. And school buses are picking up kids all over our community. They stop on the roads. People know the rules. Some people don't follow them, but then those people are pursued. But they will either work with school corporation in providing a way into their facility, or they'll lighten it up in a way to resolve any issues that they may have, or that the school corporation may, any requirements they may have for them. And then the other is the traffic, and I think I've addressed that. With the overpass being built, any increased traffic, or the increased traffic there is now, will be lessened by the overpass being built. We believe this is a good project, not only for Greg Knoll and his brother, but for the vendors that I just mentioned, and for the citizens of this community. And for that, I would request your approval on this matter next week at the City Council meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is there anybody from the public that'd like to speak on Special Ordinance 21, 2017? You just state your name and address for the record, please.
Randy Hutz, 2819 East Margaret Drive. And I'm speaking on behalf of several of the members of the neighborhood. Try to keep this short and sweet for you all so we don't take up too much more of your time this evening, and thank you for listening to our concerns. As was stated just a moment ago, one of our primary concerns is the safety for the residents who might actually be moving into this community. It's danger on this piece of roadway for the school buses. Yes, we discussed this last night. Any of you that travel Seidenbender Road know that after you come off of 30th Drive and get onto Seidenbender underneath I-70, it's kind of a racetrack. People come around a blind curve and just shoot down there, and there's another train track to cross, and we got to get across that. And we are deeply concerned that there might be some safety issues. Yes, there are safety issues wherever there's a school bus, but this area has a couple of blind areas that are extremely difficult to see around. So that's probably the biggest concern that we have. It's not that we don't have others, and I'm going to get to those here as well. Flooding in the area, I've got some pictures that if you all would like to see those, you can, but I think everybody's seen those. The problem with that is, yes, some of this property sits in a flood zone, and some of the neighbors are also in that flood zone. There's about 50 feet of elevation drop from the north end of this property from the east end of this property to the west end of this property. And now with 8 acres of green space, that flooding is not quite as severe as we would feel it might be once all of this turns from greenscape to much hardscape, and basically creating a funnel and that going down. Now, I understand that the petitioners will have to deal with that. I haven't seen a detention pond in any of the plans, and the neighbors are concerned. There are 3 neighbors that live on the west side of the property and there is a natural drainage ditch that runs behind their property, and it is overflowed today, and it is in their backyards, and having more additional runoff from this potential build is a concern for them, and I think it should be, and it's certainly a concern for their neighbors, because we certainly don't want to see that happen to our neighbors. There are some other issues, and I know that area planning did discuss this. There's some fiber optic that runs through the property. There's some sewer lines that run through the property, large sanitary sewer lines, and I believe that the build is not right on top of those, but I have a concern that we have a concern that there may be some issues involved with that, and again, we don't know that till they actually get into a build, but we certainly don't want to go into that not understanding and knowing that. For those of you that are familiar with the area, and I believe that all of you probably are, there's a lot of water at Margaret and Fruit Ridge right now, and most of that water runs down through a natural waterway, runs underneath I-70 to the south, and then turns back around and comes back to the north. It empties into Thompson Ditch, but it runs behind our neighbors and across this property and hits Margaret Avenue before it dumps into Thompson Ditch. That's probably the biggest flood issue that we have, is we don't understand how they're going to mitigate more water getting into that quicker, and certainly having a problem with how they're going to maneuver that natural waterway into their plans. We'll talk about potential for diminished property value, and I don't know that we need to talk about that a lot. Some people will say this will add to property value, and I believe that that's probably just a personal concern of the neighbors. You all think that's going to happen whenever it happens next to you and in your backyard, so I won't dwell on that. One of the big things that we would like to point out is this property is, it's an R1 property. It was put in R1 many years ago. As was said, no, it's not been developed in R1, but is consistent with the neighborhood. That's what's there, single-family housing. That's what we would like to see there if somebody wants to develop this property, and many of the neighbors have moved into this neighborhood anticipating that's what would still be there if somebody develops this property. Do multi-unit housing fit in single-family dwelling properties? We don't feel that's appropriate. Yes, we understand development needs to happen, but we'd like to see single-family homes in there. If they'd like to develop that, bring it on. We're happy to see those things. I do have one last piece that was brought to me, and I'll just read down through it. It said, and this was from one of the neighbors, you need to stop and look into the contractor that's doing the water and see how they're going to handle that. 3 of the houses, as I just said, on the north end of or on the west end of the property have runoff in their backyards right now, and I'm afraid I'm repeating myself. You need to try to get, not after this happens, but before this happens. Yes, the person who wants, or the brothers that want to develop this will be responsible to take care of this, but that's kind of after the fact. There would be litigation that would need to happen if, unfortunately, the neighbors are impacted by that, and that's backwards from what we really need to do. I mean, we want to take care of those neighbors' concerns, and if we can do that without rezoning, that's what we'd like to see. Again, we do have some pictures if you'd like to see those, and again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. It's nice to see you again tonight. I'm Ken Riney. We live at 3098 South Leah Lane. I left 3 pieces of information on the desk before the meeting. One was a large map that I just was able to get today from the area planning people, and it is to scale, and they have it as 1 inch for 100 feet on that map. We are at the last house on Leah Lane. We border I-70. Like was said earlier, there's a 50-foot drop in elevation from the top of the property, the east end of the property, down to Seidenbender Road. With the landscape the way it is now, it really absorbs a lot of this rain and slows it down. with turning into driveways and buildings, that's going to reduce that a lot. The other thing I left with you was a memo that Eddie sent to everybody, and the reason I copied that for you, you probably already seen it, but this way it's handy for you right now. And what I was looking at on that one was on page 3, at the bottom, there's 6 items that Lynn Francis felt like back in 2002 should be considered. The first one being to promote public health, safety, morality, convenience, and general welfare. The safety issues primarily have to do with Seidenbender Road. Also, if you look at the map, it shows how the road curves as it goes under I-70, and then it also curves on the other end of this property, and it curves different directions. The road also is a narrow 2-lane road. There's no way to pull off of it. I mean, there's nothing on the sides at all. I mean, it's a drop-off on the sides. So it's a real issue, I think, with school buses. I mean, even if you have single-family homes there, which we would agree with, it's going to be an issue for the school bus. They're going to stop in the middle of 2 curves to pick up kids and having vehicles coming around both ways. The second item, to encourage the most appropriate use of land, we feel like it hasn't been developed, and other developers have looked at it, a couple in particular that I know of, and have turned it down because it's not appropriate for development. And the occupants, and it'd be a smaller number of occupants with single-family homes than it would be with multifamily homes. The third item, which is to conserve and stabilize the value of property. And I feel like the single-family homes would conserve that, whereas the multifamily home would not. The fourth item, to provide adequate open spaces for light and air. Right now, at the top of the hill, if you look over onto I-70, the semis, you could stack 2 of them on top of each other. That's how much lower I-70 is. So there's a bank there to try to avoid that. Also, right now, 5 of the 8 acres is wooded, which also absorbs a lot of the sound from the road and also the exhaust from the vehicles. The fifth item, to prevent excessive concentration of population. This particular plan has changed since we started opposing it. It actually was 17 buildings to start with, and now it's 13. It's constantly changing. And so what I would request is, if it's approved, that some way or another in the legal side of it that you guys handle, it would at least stipulate what they're doing. And the last thing on here, to eliminate congestion on streets and highways, at Seidenbender Road, between Highway 46 and 13th Street, you got 13th Street that goes south under I-70. You've got the Seidenbender Road that goes under. You got Fruit Ridge that goes over, and then you go out to I-70 or out to 46. So there's a big area to get from north to south that they're going to use Seidenbender Road even if the overpass is there. I mean, it's shorter for them. And then the other thing I would like to see is, if you would like to vote for the project, that you actually table it until a traffic study is done on that road. Because I feel like the traffic is the #1 problem with this particular development. And, I think it's a major concern. And then also to try to get input from the school corporation on buses. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak on Special Ordinance 21, 2017? Council?
could I rebut some of those comments before council?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think everything we heard could be summed up in just a simple statement. Not in my backyard. They don't want apartments in their backyard. That's plain and simple. They're talking about traffic, they're talking about school buses. Nobody here accesses off Side Bender Road. They're all on Margaret. So they're worried about all this traffic, but in reality, they don't want it in their backyard. You know, they want R1. Hell, we all want single-family homes. That would be great if our community was full of single-family homes. 2002, Lynn Francis talked about, you know, density and whatnot. Since 2002, how many apartment buildings have we built in our community? And why is that? Because our society's changing. People aren't buying homes like they used to. They either can't or they don't want to. They either can't because they can't afford it, or they can't because they don't know if in a year from now they're going to be transferred or they lose their job and they got to move. There is a need for rental properties in our community. We've seen this. We've seen this. How many apartments are being built in our community? We need apartment buildings. We also need quality, affordable housing in apartments. And that's what Mr. Knoll is attempting to do, is build quality, affordable housing for the citizens of this community. The whole deal with the traffic study, I think the traffic study is almost worthless at this point, because anything you do today is going to be totally different in 6 months to a year now when they build that overpass. Mr. Ennis said last night, they project traffic's going to go down on Side Bender once that's done. So are we going to wait 2 years or a year from now to do the traffic study to see what it is? You know, traffic's going to be less. And ultimately, it doesn't affect one person sitting here, because they all exit off Margaret Avenue. They don't want it in their backyard because it's apartments. They're scared of people who live in apartments. So, and property values. Property values. Almost everybody in I'm
just going to ask you to address the council,
okay.
not the...
Property values. Everybody's always concerned about property values. You know, I've seen nothing that says that the property values are going to go down. Everybody that's opposing this because it's apartments is a concern because it's apartments. You know, they bought homes by railroad tracks and I-70. These apartments aren't going to hurt their property values. It's also not going to create more noise because you've got the trains, you've got I-70. We have a developer who would like to be a good neighbor, who has attempted to reach out to the people here and was told no. They just don't want apartments. They don't want to discuss anything. I was told no. They don't even want to talk about it. We're more than willing to work with the buffers and work with these people on what would make them happy, because ultimately it's only the 4 houses on the north side that are going to be, that may see an apartment building. Everybody else, they're not even going to see them unless they drive down, unless they go out their lanes to Margaret Avenue, drive down the Side Bender, and then go. The impact on the neighbors isn't as significant as we're being led on to believe. The flooding issues, that will all be addressed because of code. They've got to come in and control their stormwater. One of the requirements of area plan was their site plan had to be approved, and part of that is their water. And the fear of it not being done, you know, we'll find out later. They have to meet code requirements on handling their water, and it'll be inspected prior to being approved to make sure it's to code. So I don't think the flooding is really an issue unless it's a monster event like we had in 08, and then it's all out the window anyway. And the school buses are already going on Side Bender and picking people up. If they have to stop one more time on Side Bender, you know, generally buses do it before the rush hour times of 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock. It's either 7 o'clock or at 4. So I think that's an easy one to overcome. So again, we would just ask that you consider for what this is, and the developer would like to help this community for providing affordable housing. They've got a good track history of doing that. Anybody in the rental business would love to have an average occupancy of over almost 2.5 years. It's affordable, it's quality, and then obviously the tax benefits. Our community will see a significant increase in property taxes. And then not to mention the local vendors who are going to benefit from this project. This is a good project for our community. I appreciate your time this evening. I hope Councilman President Nasser is okay. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Counsel? Can't do it, you're on.
You mean?
Yeah.
No,
Move to adjourn.
Oh, I can't believe that. Move to adjourn.
Thank
It's
you.
been moved that we adjourn by Councilman Azar, second by Councilwoman Cross, and all those in favor say aye. Aye.